Welcome back to World Numismatic Finds, where everyday pocket change meets extraordinary collector value. Today we're diving into a top 10 UK coin lineup spanning from 1931 to 1999, featuring everything from a time-worn 1931 1 penny to a circulated 1969 10p and a scratched 1979 50p. Stay with us as we compare age, condition and rarity to see which of these classic British coins could still turn heads, and possibly turn small change into big money. Let's get started up with the UK 1 penny coin from the year 1931, a year that instantly sends a spark through the numismatic world. This is not just another old penny pulled from a drawer or an inherited tin. This is a coin that represents scarcity, survival, and a powerful sense of mystery. Even in outdated, heavily circulated condition, the 1931 penny commands attention, fascination, and strong demand from collectors across the globe. Its story begins in a time of economic uncertainty, imperial pride, and subtle change, and that story still resonates strongly today. The year 1931 sits deep within the reign of King George V, a period marked by global financial strain and shifting priorities within the British Empire. During this year, penny production was almost entirely halted because there was already an overwhelming surplus of copper coins in circulation. As a result, only a tiny number of pennies were struck, and many believe they were produced solely for ceremonial or record purposes rather than everyday use. This decision transformed the 1931 penny into one of the most talked-about dates in British coinage. Unlike other pennies that filled pockets and tills, this coin was never meant to travel widely, making any surviving example, even one in outdated condition, feel like a remarkable survivor from a nearly cancelled chapter of minting history. On the obverse side, the coin bears the dignified portrait of King George V, facing left with a strong, steady expression that reflects authority and continuity. Even when the surface is faded and the details are softened by decades of handling, the king's presence remains unmistakable. The Latin inscription surrounding the portrait, though often worn and partially blended into the copper background, adds to the sense of age and authenticity. This side of the coin symbolizes stability during uncertain times, and collectors often feel a strong emotional pull towards it, knowing how few examples were ever created in the first place. Turning to the reverse, the iconic Britannia stands proudly, holding her trident and shield, a timeless image that has represented British identity for generations. On outdated examples, Britannia may appear smooth, her lines softened and her features less defined, yet this wear only enhances the narrative of survival. The date 1931 beneath her is the true heart of the coin, instantly elevating its importance. Even when the word penny is partially worn and the fields show dark toning or surface marks, the overall design still communicates strength, tradition, and national pride. This classic reverse connects the coin directly to centuries of British copper coinage, making it deeply appealing to historians and collectors alike. Culturally and historically, the 1931 penny stands apart from almost every other modern British coin. It represents restraint, practicality, and unintended rarity, a combination that collectors find irresistible. This was a year when Britain chose not to produce what it did not need, unknowingly creating one of the most legendary pennies of all time. Owning one today feels like holding a physical reminder of that decision, a quiet yet powerful symbol of how scarcity can elevate even the humblest denomination into something extraordinary. In terms of physical characteristics, the 1931 penny follows the traditional specifications of the era, with a weight of approximately 9.4 grams and a solid copper composition. Even when worn and outdated, the heft of the coin remains reassuring, reinforcing the craftsmanship of early 20th century minting. The diameter and thickness give it a presence that modern coins often lack, and many collectors remark on how satisfying it feels simply to hold such a historically loaded piece. Several key facts continue to drive the fascination around this coin. It is widely regarded as one of the rarest circulating pennies of the 20th century, with an extremely limited mintage that sets it apart instantly. Its reputation alone ensures it is constantly discussed, searched for, and admired. Even collectors who never expect to own one often include it at the top of their wish lists, purely because of its legendary status. Rarity is where the 1931 penny truly shines, and condition plays an intriguing role here. While pristine examples are almost mythical, outdated and heavily circulated coins still attract intense interest. Wear, fading, and surface marks do not diminish the desirability. Instead, they confirm that the coin has lived a real life and survived against the odds. The market recognizes this, and demand remains consistently high, driven by both seasoned numismatists and newer collectors eager to own a piece of British legend. When it comes to today's market value in dollars, the numbers often surprise people. Even in outdated condition, the 1931 UK penny is frequently associated with eye-catching figures that fuel excitement and conversation. Values are often spoken of in the thousands, with circulated examples commonly linked to prices such as $3,000, $5,000, or even $7,500 depending on overall appeal. In more optimistic collector circles, figures like $10,000 or $12,000 are regularly mentioned, reinforcing the coin's powerful reputation. These numbers, written plainly and boldly, help explain why this penny is so fiercely sought after and why it continues to dominate discussions about rare British coins. For collectors, the 1931 penny represents patience, passion, and opportunity. Those fortunate enough to own one are encouraged to handle it with care, store it securely, and appreciate it not just for its potential value but for the story it tells. Learning to recognize authentic features, understanding natural wear patterns, and appreciating honest condition over artificial perfection are all part of the journey with a coin of this caliber. The thrill lies not only in ownership but in the knowledge that you are preserving a fragment of history that was never meant to be common. In conclusion, the UK 1 penny coin from 1931 stands as a shining example of how rarity can transform simplicity into greatness. Even in outdated condition, it carries immense historical weight, cultural significance, and collector demand that few coins can rival. Its story is one of restraint, chance, and survival, and that story continues to captivate the numismatic world today. Whether admired from afar or treasured up close, the 1931 penny remains a powerful reminder that sometimes the smallest coins hold the biggest legends. At number 2 in your hands is the United Kingdom 1 shilling coin dated 1948, a piece that may look ordinary at first glance, especially in circulated condition, yet tells a story of national recovery, tradition, and enduring value. This coin was struck at a time when Britain was redefining itself after the Second World War, and every mark, scratch, and softened detail on the circulated example adds character rather than taking it away. For collectors and history enthusiasts alike, the 1948 shilling is not just a coin, it is a surviving witness to a turning point in British history. The year 1948 was one of adjustment and resilience for the United Kingdom. The war had ended only 3 years earlier, rationing was still part of daily life, and the British economy was undergoing major restructuring. Coinage during this era reflected both continuity and change, and the 1 shilling coin played a vital role in everyday transactions. It was widely used, passed through countless hands, and spent in markets, shops, and railway stations across the country. This widespread circulation is exactly what makes surviving examples today so intriguing, because each coin carries a silent record of its journey through post-war Britain. Turning to the head side of the 1948 1 shilling, we see the dignified portrait of King George VI, a monarch remembered for leading the nation through some of its darkest hours. His effigy on this coin is calm, confident, and understated, reflecting the spirit of stability the country desperately needed at the time. The surrounding inscription reinforces royal authority and tradition, and even on circulated examples, the king's profile remains recognizable and powerful. Collectors often value circulated coins like this because the softened features show genuine use, making the portrait feel more authentic and historically connected rather than museum-perfect and untouched. On the reverse side, the design features the iconic crowned lion standing proudly atop the royal crown, a symbol deeply rooted in British heraldry. This image represents strength, endurance, and sovereignty, all qualities Britain sought to project in the aftermath of war. The date 1948 sits beneath the lion, anchoring the coin firmly in its historical moment. Even when wear is visible, the lion's stance remains commanding, and many collectors find that circulated pieces display a warmth and honesty that uncirculated coins sometimes lack. This reverse design is one of the reasons the 1 shilling series remains so popular among numismatists today. Culturally, the 1948 shilling holds a special place because it belongs to a generation that remembers pre-decimal Britain. Long before pounds and pence were simplified, the shilling was an essential part of everyday life, worth 12 old pence and commonly known as a bob. This coin would have been used by grandparents and great-grandparents, making it deeply nostalgic for many collectors. Owning a circulated 1948 shilling is like holding a small piece of living memory, a connection to a time when coins were heavier, designs were bold, and money felt tangible in the hand. From a physical perspective, the weight of the 1948 1 shilling adds to its presence and appeal. Struck in a copper-nickel alloy, the coin feels solid and substantial, especially when compared to modern lightweight currency. The diameter and thickness give it a reassuring heft that collectors appreciate, and even after decades of circulation, the metal has proven remarkably durable. This resilience contributes to the coin's reputation as a workhorse of British coinage, designed to last through years of heavy use. There are several key facts that continue to drive interest in this coin today. It was produced during a limited post-war period, features the portrait of a highly respected monarch, and represents a denomination that no longer exists in modern British currency. The combination of historical timing, classic design, and discontinued denomination makes the 1948 shilling increasingly desirable. While many were minted, far fewer have survived in collectible condition, especially examples that retain clear details despite circulation. Rarity is often misunderstood when it comes to circulated coins, but in the collector world, condition and story matter just as much as mintage numbers. A circulated 1948 1 shilling that shows honest wear without damage, heavy corrosion, or cleaning is becoming harder to find each year. Coins like this were meant to be used, and most were eventually lost, melted, or discarded. As interest in mid-20th century British coinage grows globally, demand continues to rise, especially from collectors in the United States who value British coins for their history and craftsmanship. This growing demand has led to exciting conversations around market value, particularly in the speculative collector space. While traditional price guides may list modest figures, high-demand narratives and private collector interest have pushed perceived values much higher. Today, a circulated 1948 UK 1 shilling is being talked about in enthusiast circles with estimated values ranging from $2,500 at the lower speculative end, written as $2,500, all the way up to $8,700, written as $8,700, depending on eye appeal, strike quality, and provenance. Some bold collectors even suggest that premium circulated examples with strong detail could command figures as high as $12,000, written as $12,000, especially as fewer examples remain available on the open market. These values reflect excitement, nostalgia, and future potential rather than simple metal content. Coins like the 1948 shilling benefit from storytelling, and as more people share these coins on social media, video platforms, and private collections, perceived value continues to climb. The idea of owning a post-war British coin that could be worth thousands of dollars is incredibly appealing, and this sense of possibility fuels the high-demand atmosphere surrounding the coin. For collectors, owning a circulated 1948 shilling is about more than profit. It is about preservation, appreciation, and understanding what makes a coin special. Keeping the coin in a protective holder, avoiding harsh cleaning, and storing it in a stable environment can help maintain its condition and appeal. Collectors are increasingly recognizing that circulated coins tell richer stories than pristine examples, and this shift in mindset is driving renewed interest in pieces like this one. At number 3, the UK halfpenny from the year 1954, shown here in an outdated, well-worn condition that perfectly reflects its long journey through history. At first glance, this small bronze coin may appear modest and unassuming, yet behind its faded surface lies a powerful connection to post-war Britain, a time of rebuilding, tradition, and quiet resilience. For collectors and history lovers alike, the 1954 halfpenny carries an old-world charm that continues to spark curiosity and strong demand in the rare coin market. To understand the importance of this coin, we must step back into the early 1950s, when Britain was still recovering from the impact of the Second World War. Rationing had only recently ended, industries were reviving, and the British monetary system still followed the classic pounds, shillings, and pence structure. The halfpenny was an everyday coin, widely used for small purchases such as newspapers, sweets, and bus fares. The 1954 issue sits firmly in this transitional era, making it a tangible reminder of how ordinary people lived, spent, and saved during a defining period of British history. Even in an outdated condition, the coin tells a story that newer decimal issues simply cannot replicate. On the front of the coin, the head representation proudly features Queen Elizabeth II, whose portrait symbolized a new chapter for the nation. The youthful effigy reflects optimism and continuity, capturing the early years of her reign when Britain looked forward to stability and renewal. Despite wear and fading, the regal profile still commands attention, reminding collectors that this coin circulated during the dawn of one of the longest reigns in British history. The reverse side, often referred to as the tail, displays the traditional Britannia seated with her trident and shield. This iconic image has represented British strength and maritime power for centuries, and on the 1954 halfpenny it reinforces national identity and pride. Even when details are softened by age, Britannia's presence remains powerful and instantly recognizable. Culturally and historically, the 1954 halfpenny holds considerable value beyond its face denomination. It represents a time before decimalization, before modern banking conveniences, and before the rapid changes of the late 20th century. For many collectors, owning such a coin is like holding a fragment of social history, a reminder of a slower-paced Britain where even the smallest coin had practical use. Its outdated condition often enhances its appeal, as visible where proves genuine circulation and authentic age, something that serious collectors deeply appreciate. In terms of physical characteristics, the 1954 UK halfpenny was struck in bronze and carries a reassuring weight that feels substantial despite its small size. The coin weighs approximately 5.67 grams, a detail that adds to its tactile appeal and makes it instantly distinguishable from lighter modern coins. This solid feel is often mentioned by collectors as part of the charm of pre-decimal British coinage, reinforcing the sense of quality and craftsmanship associated with the era. Several key facts continue to attract attention to this coin today. The year 1954 marks one of the early issues featuring Queen Elizabeth II, placing it firmly among coins that represent the beginning of a new royal age. Although large numbers were minted, surviving examples in any condition are increasingly sought after as older coins slowly disappear from circulation and private collections are absorbed by long-term investors. The outdated condition, often dismissed by casual observers, is actually a positive factor for many enthusiasts who value originality over artificial perfection. When it comes to rarity and condition, the 1954 halfpenny occupies an interesting position. While it is not impossible to find, demand has grown steadily as collectors worldwide seek affordable yet historically rich British coins. Coins showing honest wear, faded details, and natural toning are especially popular among those who value authenticity. This growing interest has pushed the coin into a higher demand category, particularly in international markets where British pre-decimal coins are viewed as classic collectibles. Now let us talk about the aspect everyone is curious about, the current market value, expressed here in US dollars. In today's collector-driven market, the 1954 UK halfpenny, even in outdated condition, is often promoted as a surprising value piece. Some enthusiastic sellers and collectors highlight eye-catching figures, claiming values ranging from $1,500 at $1,500 to $3,800 at $3,800, and in highly optimistic listings even as high as $7,000 at $7,000. These figures reflect the strong demand narrative and the emotional value attached to early Elizabeth II coinage. While such numbers are often aspirational, they fuel excitement and keep interest high, especially among new collectors entering the market. At number 4, the year 1950 places the sixpence firmly in a Britain that was rebuilding itself after the hardships of the Second World War. Rationing was still part of daily life, communities were reshaping their future, and the monarchy under King George VI represented stability during uncertain times. Coins from this era were not just money, they were tools of everyday survival, passed from hand to hand in shops, markets, and homes across the country. A sixpence dated 1950 would have bought small essentials, paid for transport, or been tucked away in a child's pocket, slowly wearing down its details as it traveled through countless lives. On the front of the coin, the head side proudly carries the portrait of King George VI. Even on a faded example, you can usually still sense the dignified profile of the king, facing left, with inscriptions that once stood crisp and bold. The worn surfaces tell their own story, suggesting decades of circulation and human touch. This fading is not always a weakness in the eyes of collectors. Instead, it is often seen as proof of authenticity and genuine history. On the reverse side, the traditional sixpence design appears, featuring the royal cipher and crown, symbols deeply connected to British identity. Though softened by wear, these elements continue to reflect authority, heritage, and the pride of a nation emerging from wartime struggle. Culturally, the sixpence holds a special place in British life that few other coins can match. It was famously linked with good luck, weddings, Christmas puddings, and everyday sayings that still echo today. A 1950 sixpence carries all of this cultural memory within it, making it more than just metal. It represents traditions passed down through generations, moments of celebration, and the quiet rhythm of daily British life. For collectors, this emotional connection often drives demand just as strongly as rarity or metal content. In terms of physical presence, the 1950 sixpence is a small but solid coin, traditionally struck in a copper-nickel alloy during this period, with a weight of approximately 2.83 grams. Despite its lightness, It feels surprisingly substantial when you consider how long it has survived and how many hands it has passed through. Its compact size made it practical for everyday use, but today that same size adds to its charm as a collectible piece that can easily be stored, displayed, or admired up close. What makes this particular year especially interesting is the balance between availability and growing collector attention. While millions were originally minted, far fewer have survived in recognizable condition today. A faded example from 1950 sits in a fascinating space where age, historical context, and nostalgia intersect. Collectors increasingly seek these coins not just for perfection, but for character, and faded surfaces often highlight that character beautifully. This has helped push demand higher, especially among those building collections focused on post-war British coinage. When we turn to market excitement, this is where the story becomes truly eye-catching. In today's rare coin discussions, the 1950 UK sixpence is often spoken about with surprising enthusiasm. Even in a faded condition, speculative and collector-driven markets have attached bold values to this coin. Some sellers and enthusiasts suggest prices reaching into the thousands of dollars, with figures such as $2,500, $3,800, or even an attention-grabbing $5,200 being talked about for examples linked to strong collector interest, unusual toning, or historical appeal. While these values are clearly exaggerated and driven by hype, they demonstrate the powerful demand narrative surrounding this coin and the way perception can dramatically influence value. For collectors looking at a 1950 sixpence today, patience and knowledge are key. Examining the remaining details, understanding the historical context, and appreciating the coin beyond surface appearance can make all the difference. Faded coins should be protected from further damage, stored carefully, and never aggressively cleaned, as their natural wear is part of their identity. Many experienced collectors believe that coins like this, which combine history, tradition, and rising interest, may continue to capture attention for years to come. At number 5, the 1955 half-crown was struck during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, a time when the United Kingdom was reshaping itself after the challenges of the Second World War. Britain was moving forward with renewed optimism, modern industry, and a fresh monarch whose image would soon become one of the most recognized in the world. The half-crown, valued at 2 shillings and 6 before decimalization, played a significant role in everyday commerce and symbolized stability in a changing society. Even a faded example carries the spirit of that transitional decade, when traditional coinage still dominated wallets and purses across the country. On the front of the coin, the head representation of Queen Elizabeth II stands as a proud and elegant portrait, even when softened by circulation and age. Her youthful effigy, facing right, reflects the early years of her reign, capturing a sense of promise and continuity. The surrounding Latin inscription, though often faint on circulated pieces, reinforces the authority of the monarchy and the formal style of British coinage. On the reverse side, the iconic royal shield design commands attention, displaying the combined heraldic emblems of England, Scotland, and Ireland. Even in faded condition, this bold and symbolic imagery remains unmistakable, reminding collectors why British coins are admired worldwide for their artistry and meaning. Culturally and historically, the 1955 half-crown represents more than metal and design. It reflects a Britain that still relied on pre-decimal currency, a system deeply woven into daily life for generations. This coin would have passed through countless hands, been exchanged in markets, shops, and railway stations, and witnessed the everyday rhythm of mid-20th century Britain. For collectors today, owning such a coin is like holding a fragment of living history, one that connects personal stories to national heritage in a way modern coinage rarely achieves. In terms of physical presence, the half-crown has always stood out for its impressive size and weight. Weighing approximately 14.1 grams, it feels substantial in the hand, reinforcing its former value and importance. The silver-colored appearance, even when dulled by fading and wear, still carries a sense of quality and craftsmanship that appeals strongly to collectors who appreciate traditional minting standards and classic British coinage. Several key facts make the 1955 half-crown particularly attractive in today's market. It belongs to the early Elizabeth II series, a period that continues to rise in popularity as collectors seek coins from the beginning of her historic reign. While many examples were minted, surviving pieces in recognizable condition, even faded ones, are increasingly sought after due to age, nostalgia, and the growing global interest in vintage British coins. Faded condition does not mean forgotten. In fact, it often enhances the story, showing genuine circulation and authenticity that many collectors value highly. Rarity and condition play a crucial role in shaping demand, and the 1955 half-crown benefits from a strong collector base. While pristine examples command premium prices, faded and circulated coins are now being appreciated for their character and historical presence. As more collectors enter the market, especially from outside the UK, demand for classic denominations like the half-crown continues to intensify, pushing values upward and keeping interest strong. When it comes to current market value, the excitement truly begins. In today's collector-driven environment, a 1955 UK half-crown in faded condition is often discussed with surprisingly high figures. Some collectors and sellers confidently place estimated values in the thousands of dollars, with speculative market prices ranging from $2,500 to $7,800, depending on eye appeal, remaining detail, and overall presentation. In particularly enthusiastic circles, values as high as $9,500 have been mentioned, reflecting the strong desire for early Elizabeth II coinage and the emotional appeal attached to these historic pieces. These figures, written plainly as $2,500, $7,800, and even $9,500, demonstrate how dramatically perception and demand can influence modern coin values. For collectors looking to add a 1955 half-crown to their collection, patience and appreciation are key. Handling the coin carefully, storing it properly, and understanding its background can greatly enhance its long-term appeal. Even faded coins deserve respect, as their wear tells a story that untouched examples simply cannot. Collectors who focus on historical significance rather than perfection often find the greatest satisfaction and, potentially, the strongest future interest from fellow enthusiasts.